All right, so question 5, October, November 2017, variant 2. Not a very difficult question, but there were some misconceptions that this particular question did hit on. So let's go ahead with this. The diagram shows the cost curves for a firm, and they've shown you the curves. And it says what does the firm experience as it increases output from Q1 to Q2. Now, right off the bat, you can easily cross out C and D. The reason you can cross out C, even though according to the examiner report, it was actually the most popular choice, which is surprising. The reason you can cross out C is because economies of scale, diseconomies of scale, returns to scale, all of that type of stuff exists only in the long run. Clearly, when you have fixed costs, it means you have a fixed factor. If you have a fixed factor, you're in the short run. So you're clearly in the short run. So you can just cross out C very easily. You can also cross out D, because for profit, you need to look at stuff like marginal revenue as well. In this particular case, or you needed average revenue and you look at average total cost and you compare that with average revenue. So basically, the idea is you need at least one of the revenue curves. Without those, you can't really figure out whether or not profit has increased. So you can cross that out as well. Because one might be like, okay, let's look here. You've gone from Q1 to Q2. Your average total cost has fallen. Profit is revenue minus cost. If cost is falling, profit should increase. But you don't know what's happened to revenue. Revenue could have also fallen. So, which is why you can just cross out D. You don't know. You don't have enough information to make a judgment about profit. So it leaves you with A and B. And your right answer was B. Why B and why not A? This explanation hopefully will clarify all of that. But one thing to remember with B, remember diminishing returns, they set in not when ATC rises. That's a misconception. They set in when AVC rises. That's the idea. So like if this is your AVC curve, and so after this particular point, diminishing returns will set in. That's the idea. Because diminishing returns was when you used to increase a variable factor, right? And you used to get a less than proportionate increase in output. So as a result of that, your variable cost rises. Now, normally this also coincides with average total cost rising, but in this specific case, that wasn't what happened, as I'll show. But you have to be a little careful about that. Be a little technical about it. Like if let's say ATC is falling but AVC is rising, you're going to always look at AVC, because ATC, that's average total cost, it could be perhaps be falling even if AVC is rising, because perhaps average fixed costs are falling. But diminishing returns has nothing to do with fixed costs, which is why your average total cost isn't going to be the metric you're going to look at, especially when you have something to figure out average variable cost. So to make this more clear, you have to draw the AVC curve, which is something along the lines of, I'm very bad at drawing, so, but like, maybe not that. Let me try. Let me have one more try. One more attempt. Okay, something like that. The idea here is obviously that it's more or less the same shape. It's a little lower because, well, it doesn't include fixed costs, but the MC cuts both ATC and AVC at their minimum points. So this point A is minimum ATC or average cost. Point B, on the other hand, is minimum AVC. So if you look at it, you can clearly see that minimum AVC occurs at a quantity that is less than minimum AC or minimum ATC, whatever you want to call it. Minimum ATC happens at quantity Q 2, minimum AVC might happen somewhere around this particular quantity, very close to Q1. So as you increase output from Q1 to Q2, you've already passed the minimum point of AVC. If you pass the minimum point of AVC, it was decreasing till its minimum point. After the minimum point, there's only one thing that's going to happen, is that AVC is going to increase. When AVC increases, we just saw this, that is diminishing returns. And it also crosses out A because it says decreased average variable cost, when you know that average variable cost has increased. So the reason you know this is because you figured out that the AVC is going to be a little lower than the ATC. And just because of looking at the marginal cost curve and knowing that it cuts AVC at its minimum point, you know that the minimum point is going to be a little to the left than the minimum point of the average cost curve. And hence, AVC will increase and diminishing returns can be said to have been experienced.